Remember when you were a kid and making friends was easy? You simply told a classmate that you liked their backpack, and then you got to talking about whatever it is kids talk about. Maybe your mom called their mom and set up a playdate. And suddenly, you had a bestie. But what happened? When did that change? Maybe our adult inhibitions are to blame, or maybe it's all the responsibilities and duties vying for our time. But I think we can all agree it's just not as easy as it once was. But in this video, I hope to prove that it doesn't have to be quite so hard. And you never know where you might meet new friends. Friends that would help you get your truck unstuck, or friends that you'd make plans to see again on other sides of the world. Friends who after just a few days together, you trust to have your back in 40 feet of water. This is a story about finding our people, learning new things, and forging friendships in a foreign land. Oh, and spoiler alert, not all of our new friends are human. After a month in Baja, Mexico, seeking out empty dirt roads, remote beaches, and generally trying to get away from other humans, we found that we were craving a bit more socialization. Maybe it was the fact that we were both now unemployed, or maybe it was the lengthening days, waking our souls from the natural season of hibernation. While there are certainly some downsides of being connected nearly 24/7, thank you Elon, one of the upsides is that we've interacted with a ton of people from all over the world on social media platforms. We love chatting with people and seeing other folks' adventures. We've kept up a number of conversations with folks living similar lives to us, knowing that if/when our paths cross, it would be great to meet in real life. So when Cody and Christina of the Desert Cruiser invited us to come hang out at a beach they were headed to with a few other full-time vehicle dwellers, it felt like being asked to come sit at the popular kids' table. And we were honestly a bit nervous. What if they didn't like us? What if we weren't cool enough? What if our truck looks dorky compared to theirs? But, as many fears tend to be, these were unwarranted. We soon met the fine folks behind Fire Rosie on Tour, who are a family of 4 traveling North and South America in a fire truck decades older and far more attractive than our old fire truck. We also met the incredible family behind Roaming Nomads, who happily squeezed 2 adults, 2 children, and 1 large dog into a Sprinter van, yet still have room for a paddleboard. They've been on the road for the majority of their children's lives. We had an absolute blast with these 3 families, spending a few days on the beach together, going paddleboarding, playing tag, snorkeling, and watching the stars. Meeting these incredible children who are growing up while traveling the world gave us a lot of hope about the next generation of travelers. The Roaming Nomads and Fire Rosie on Tour were all finalizing their Baja trips at this point. They had plans in other countries and were on their ways out of Mexico. We made plans to hopefully see each other again in future travels. When our final night together arrived, the kids wanted to throw a party. So we obliged, spearing a number of new fish to identify and cook, while the kids collected firewood, decorated the campsite, and set up the music playlist. We feasted on tacos, listened to tunes from around the world, and finally made a fire. You want to know the best thing about partying with children? Bedtime's around 9 p.m. While we had to say goodbye to the wonderful humans behind Roaming Nomads and Fire Rosie on tour, we were headed in the same direction as Cody and Christina from the Desert Cruiser. We'd gotten along so well that we all decided to keep this party train moving. Next stop, La Ventana. Heather and I had been to La Ventana on our first trip to Baja a few years ago, spending a day on the beach and watching the kite surfers. But this time, we had plans to be a bit more active. We'd picked a campsite near the local mountain bike trails. Cody and Christina's friend and fellow vehicle-based adventurer, Tim of Van Life Travelog, and his golden retriever Louie met us there as well. Tim has been living in his van for 8 years and knows a thing or two about the lifestyle. We had originally started chatting with Cody and Christina on Instagram after seeing they were also avid mountain bikers and happened to be building an expedition truck at a similar time as us. We'll get to their killer truck later in this video. Tim is also a big mountain biker, and as luck would have it, we were all parked at the base of some of the very best trails on the peninsula. We got out for a few rides together, suffering up the steep sandy climbs, somehow always making sure to time our rides perfectly with the hottest part of the day. It may only have been springtime, but the days were getting into the 90s. Our efforts on the climbs were rewarded with sweet descents and views of the ocean. And after each ride, we had a customary swim in the Sea of Cortez. The reality of travel in an expedition truck is that everything is big, expensive, and slow. And that's okay. But this reality means that simply packing up and heading into town for ice cream can be a bit of an ordeal. Thankfully, Tim invited the 4 of us to hitch a ride into town in his 4x4 van that he's modified over the years. Packing 5 humans and 1 golden retriever into Tim's van meant that we didn't need to pack up our trucks. The ride in Tim's van was cozy. His van only has a driver's seat, so we improvised with camp chairs and sitting on the bed. As a group of 5, we walked around town, running errands and doing some shopping. We grabbed a bite to eat while watching the kite surfing scene that La Ventana is famous for. And we finished our excursion with some ice cream. And you bet that Louie got some too. We could have easily spent another week in La Ventana, but we had to keep moving because we had plans elsewhere in southern Baja. We drove on to another favorite place on the peninsula because we were switching things up a bit.
We are in Todos Santos because tomorrow we're starting a full week-long Spanish immersion course at a school in town. And we're really excited because we've been trying to learn Spanish using the apps and practicing on each other and getting by with our Spanglish with locals here. But we're planning on spending a fair bit of time in Spanish-speaking places, and so we want to get more confident and comfortable with speaking to people. So we're super excited to be here.
The last time we visited Todos Santos, we fell in love with this artsy community. So on this trip, we knew we wanted to spend more time here. We chose to stay at the Todos Santos hostel because it's within walking distance to town, has a great vibe and interesting people. It served as a great base camp for the week. We walked to class and were immediately immersed in the language and people of Mexico. Learning a different language is hard, but the teachers at Hablando Mexicano made it fun and interesting, mixing in cultural teaching and experiences with vocab and grammar. There was a lot of practice to be done, and there even was homework. But Each day also had a different cultural activity, and the highlights were a mezcal tasting and a home-cooked traditional meal. While it's clear we still have a ton of learning to do, feeling the progress we made in a week makes us keen to do more learning soon. The ability to connect with people who actually live in the places that we travel to is super important to us and opens up many doors while traveling. Speaking of doors being open to us, on our final evening in town, some folks we met at the hostel invited us to join them to go play beach volleyball nearby, even though we never played before. There were plenty of excuses we could have made, but instead, we simply said yes. The ability to be spontaneous and simply say yes to things is one of our favorite things about this traveling lifestyle that we're currently enjoying.
Otra mujer tal vez más buena, pero nunca mejor.
Hoy me arrepentí cuando yo te vi, ibas de la mano con quien te hacía reír. Tal vez yo te di solo sufrimiento. Mírame a los ojos y dime cómo carajo arreglo esto.
No la cagues más, solo di adiós. Sabes que lo nuestro que vivimos se acabó. Ya no seas así. Mírame a los ojos, ya te dije que se fue al carajo esto.
Hoy me arrepentí cuando yo te vi, ibas de la mano con quien te hacía reír. Tal vez yo te di solo sufrimiento. Mírame a los ojos y dime cómo carajo arreglo esto.
After Todos Santos, we had one more area that we knew we needed to check out, the famed East Cape. This area is known for being incredibly beautiful, but making you work for it by navigating rough roads. The East Cape region of Baja is loosely defined as the area between La Ribera and San Jose del Cabo. It's served by a single main dirt road that has plenty of washboard, big bumps, and very little in the way of food, fuel, or water. While certainly not the most remote place in Baja, it's far enough away from supplies that spending time here means you need to be prepared. We had scouted on Onyx about some potential places to camp, looking at the satellite view and marking some off-the-beaten-path spots to investigate. While there are tons of camp spots on iOverlander, sometimes it can be fun to just look at a map and see where some of the long, unmarked dirt roads lead to. I'm not going to share specific locations, but let's just say there are plenty of places to find where you'll have a beach all to yourself. Cody, Christina, and Tim were also planning on hitting the East Cape, so we joined forces yet again. This time, we picked the campsite and waited for the others to arrive. Cody and Christina got there first, in one of the most impressive home-built overland rigs we've seen to date. It's a 2022 Ford F550, heavily modified for full-time overland travel. With 41-inch tires, a giant custom box, bumper, winch, and lights, plus the longhorns on the top, this thing is mean-looking. Thankfully, Cody and Christina are not mean and happily share the cookies and other desserts they bake using their oven. After a bit of maneuvering, they settled into camp. Tim and Louie soon joined us as well, and the band was back together again.
Good morning. We are bouncing down the road again. Seems like this is the way you see us most of the time. We've been camped on this really cool beach for a couple days now, but we just heard from someone that there's some really good snorkeling just north of here. Really only a couple miles away as the crow flies, but these roads are pretty bouncy and windy, so it's a slow process. We don't know how long it's going to take for us to get over there, but hopefully we're going to catch high tide and get in the water and do some snorkeling and spearfishing this morning. And we are following behind our friends, the desert cruiser. So we both move slow, not trying to get anywhere fast because we're both carrying our homes on our trucks. And it's fun to have someone else to follow behind to do these kinds of drives. Pretty stoked about where we're heading.
We settled into a routine with Cody, Christina, and Tim. We said hello in the morning, drinking coffee and hanging around camp. We planned an activity or two for the day, whether it was spearfishing, mountain biking, or heading into town for ice cream. But we also had plenty of time alone. They all had work to do, and Heather and I edited video, read, or just did our own thing. In the evenings, we would regroup, take a walk, and watch the sunset. It was like having friends rent the Airbnb next door. You could hang out as much or as little as you like, without the pressure to be constantly together or entertaining a guest. Every few days, we would pack up, move spots, and set up this traveling circus in a new location. And on one of the easier to access beaches, we may have gotten a little overconfident with our parking. We were just planning to park for one night, and we were just barely getting off the trail, so we didn't air down. In the morning, when it was time to leave, we ended up spinning the tires and getting bogged down. We were stuck. Thankfully, Cody was willing to help dig and lent us an extra set of traction boards, making our recovery easy. In a matter of minutes, we were unstuck and on our way.
Oh, easy.
Thankfully, our recovery was quick because we were in a bit of a rush to secure a campsite. A rush? In Baja? For a campsite? Yeah, I know, I've been blabbering on the past 3 videos about how Baja is so relaxed, not overcrowded at all, with plenty of beaches to go around. And that's true, for 51 weekends of the year. This coming weekend was Easter, meaning that we were in the middle of Semana Santa, Holy Week. In Mexico, many folks work 6 or 7 days a week, without much of a vacation. But Semana Santa is one of the few weeks a year that most people take off from work, close their shops, and head to the beaches. We'd been told that it can get super busy and even a bit crazy, so we heeded the warnings and got to a beach early. Sure enough, more and more people came pouring onto the beach, bringing their coolers full of drinks, beach furniture, and building some pretty elaborate camps. We'd essentially been told that it was a 3-day straight party, so we had our earplugs at the ready. But in a way that only Baja can, it surprised us again. While there were a lot of people around, it was all families, getting together to spend time with each other. Sure, there was music and food and dancing, but when 9 p.m. rolled around, most of the groups were already quietly sitting around campfires sharing a meal. It was quieter than most of the commercial campgrounds we've spent nights at the States. We slept great. We even made friends with some of the folks camped nearby, who Cody and Tim ended up spearfishing with, bringing home a handful of triggerfish to ceviche. A few more new friends even came to join the party, in this case of the aquatic variety. One day while snorkeling, we met this sea turtle. It was super inquisitive of us, and we found it to be following us around for a bit. Being in the water with this majestic creature was captivating. And, as Baja does so well, there was more. Soon after our turtle encounter, we saw these 2 adult humpback whale with a young calf, who were accompanied by dolphins. We had no idea these 2 species hung out. The 5 of them seemed choreographed in the way they breached, twirled, and darted around each other. It was a spectacular, magical, and stunning dance to watch. Man, nature is cool. So, this is our 3rd installment of 50 miles per hour, our Baja series. If we haven't earned your subscription yet, I understand. We'll do better. But, if you've made it this far, you'll probably enjoy our series finale that will drop in a few weeks. So, if you subscribe now, you'll be the first to see our next video, and this one you don't want to miss. Let's just say Baja had a couple more surprises up its sleeve for us, and unfortunately, a couple of these surprises were a bit less fun. Speaking of Baja surprises, if you're thinking about a trip down south, click the link in the description for a free Overlanders Guide to Baja PDF that we are giving away for free on our website. Okay, back to the beach. At this point, Cody, Heather, and I had been spearfishing nearly every day for a couple of weeks. We were honing our skills and often bringing back enough fish for a meal or 2. But spearfishing can be dangerous. As we learned more about the sport, it became clear that fishing alone is foolish, and the buddy system reigns supreme. For a number of reasons, including entrapment, shallow water blackout, and most terrifyingly, sharks, we used a system where one of us would go down, hunt for a bit, and then resurface to catch up on breathing, while allowing the other people a chance to dive. When we found a fish, we would work together to spear it and bring it back to the surface. Heather and I were suddenly entrusting our lives to a person we had met via the internet just a few weeks prior. And it felt great. Finding people who you can trust like this doesn't come along every day, and it all happened because we collectively decided to put the effort in. while not every person we've met on the road has become a close friend, we had now met a bunch of people that we would stay in touch with over the coming months. I don't claim to have this whole making friends thing figured out. It's never going to be as easy to make friends as an adult as it was when we were kids. But I do have one idea, and it's not a new one. It revolves around simply gaining the confidence to make a plan in real life and then show up. We realized that when we became willing to dedicate a large enough portion of time to get past the small talk, the truck tours, and talking about how we go to the bathroom, we might just be able to make some new friends. Investing not just a few minutes, but a few hours of time getting to know people has really paid dividends. Gathering the courage and willingness to reach out and then follow through has not always been easy, but we're sure glad we've done it. And isn't this the real reason we choose to travel? While we love the mountain scenes, stunning beaches, and glorious sunsets, the things we recall and tell stories about won't be things at all, but people. The experiences we have with each other and the amazing humans we meet along the way are the real souvenirs. The photos, videos, and patches we collect are nothing but reminders of the human beings, and sometimes dogs, that we've been lucky enough to cross paths with.